Hi, I'm Mike Ward. I want to show you just briefly how to estimate a share's beta coefficient. So I've got here just a little plot and I'm going to demonstrate this graphically, and then I'm going to go to Excel and show you how you would actually do it. So first of all, we need to be very careful that we plot the market's return on the x-axis over here. And on the y-axis, we want the shares return. And we're going to do this monthly, and we're going to plot the points just going back historically using actual monthly return data, and so that we've got all these points in place. We're normally going to run about 60 of these points. Then we're going to just plot a regression line through the points, so we'll use Excel to do that. And let us say that the slope of the line, which is what we're really interested in, is 0.5. Then that tells us what the beta is. The beta is just no more than the slope. Now, what this means is that if the market, let's say, delivers 10%, we would expect that the share will deliver half of that. Why? Because the beta is 0.5. If the beta was 1, if the market goes up by 10%, we'd expect the share to give us 10%. If the beta is 2, then we'd expect the share to give us double the market return. That's all a beta is. Now, if we just go out of this into Excel, and here I'm just showing you, for example, these are the FTSE 100 returns. Now, we need 5 years of data, and we need it for the index. And here I have it. This is the FTSE 100 index over here. And then there's all these shares that we could choose over here. Now, you can plot the graph if you want to, but since we're only really interested in the slope, that is the beta, we could just come along for Anglo, say, and we could use the Excel function, which just is equals slope. And if you put in the brackets, it says, what are the y's? Now this is where you have to get this right. The y-axis is the vertical axis, and that is going to be the share. So I'm going to highlight, notice not prices, but monthly returns for Anglo. And if I then put a comma in here, it's going to ask me for the x's. The x's, what did the index do? So I'm going to come in here, and I'm just going to make sure this matches, and I'm going to put that down there. And I'm going to lock these cells here with by pressing F4, because if I want to copy this to other cells, the market is always the market. So if I put that in, you can see I'm getting a beta there for Anglo of about 2. What does it mean? Well, if the market goes up by 10% in a month, we'd expect Anglo to go up by twice that. So once you've done this for one share, you can just copy this all the way across here for any shares you want, and it's going to just give us the betas for all of these shares. So it's as simple as that. If you want to plot this out to see the actual graph, well, then you would have to highlight the returns, and let's just go to the top here. And so I'm going to plot Anglo's returns, and I'm going to push Shift F8. That enables me to mark another range in here as well, and I want this range over here, so I'm just highlighting that as well. And then you have to tell Excel you want to print a XY plot, and the quickest way to do that is Alt ND, and that'll give you a scatter plot. Click the scatter plot, and we've got a chart here. I'm just going to move this chart onto a new sheet so we can easily see it, since I've got lots of sheets here already. There's our chart, and we just want to check that we've actually got the market on this axis and Anglo on this axis. It looks to me, I can sort of tell, because actually we've got big numbers for Anglo here. But let's just, if you right click on here and you say select the data, and we just edit this, I want to make sure that the X returns are locked onto column B. That's where we had the market. So that is correct. So once we've got that right, we can just cancel this. We can click on any point that we've got over here, right click on it, and you can just tell it to add a trend line. And we do not want to force it through 0 or anything fancy, but we would like to display the equation and the R squared value. And if we just make this a little bit bigger over here, you can see the slope of this line here, there's the slope, is the beta. And so we've got a chart, we've got everything we need. You'll notice the R squared is quite low. That doesn't really matter. In fact, what it's telling us is that the market explains 17% of the variance in Anglo, which is not much. What that means is that we better make sure we don't hold Anglo on its own in our portfolio. It's telling us we really need to make sure we've got a big portfolio, because we want to make sure we're not concentrated on Anglo's risk alone, what we call the specific risk of Anglo. So the lower the R squared is, the more shares you need to make sure you've got in your portfolio. If you get a high R squared, that's telling us that share is just like the market, then it's actually got, the risk is kind of the same as the market. We don't need to diversify much. So I hope that you found that useful. Thank you.